What happens when all the drama over the McGill University strike of non-academic personnel runs into a musical theatre troupe?
His needs of you, his room is bare. He hardly uses his fancy chair. The more he reads, the more he lives. He never forgets and he never forgives. Perhaps today you gave a nod to Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street.
This year's production of Sweeney Todd by McGill's Arts Undergraduate Theatre Society is having a bumpy ride, to say the least. The strike means they can't stage the production at McGill, but determined, you bet they are. Andrea Poyle is the producer of this year's production of Sweeney Todd, and Phaedra Novak is the director. If I got that right, welcome to the Daybreak studio.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to see you. Andrea, what has this meant? What's happened to your production of Sweeney Todd at McGill?
So essentially, because of the MUNACA strike at McGill, it means that the technical director at Moist Hall, which is our normal performance venue, is on strike. And so due to that and due to Quebec labor law means that we can't perform in that space. And a lot of resources that are normally available to us, we're not allowed to use because of the strike. So we've had to make a lot of adjustments in terms of our budget. We've had to move off campus, and moving off campus to a different performance venue means that our costs essentially skyrocket. How
did you find some place to go to, Phaedra? How did that work?
Well, I was actually very fortunate because the newer musical theatre group at McGill, Musical Theatre Montreal, was in a similar situation because of the strike. They also had to move, and they found D.B. Clark, and then we did some research.
So you're moving to Concordia?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you talked about extra costs. Mm-hmm. What sort of range of extra costs are we talking about?
Well, when we normally perform at McGill, the university tries to make it affordable for us as a student group. And when you move off campus, and especially when you move to a venue like D.B. Clark, which is fantastic, it's really just a great place to perform with great resources. You see that things become more expensive. You know, there aren't necessarily those concessions made. Although we have been working with people at D.B. Clark, and they are just fantastic and really helpful. So
what kind of scale of extra costs are we talking
well,
about?
We're talking about doubling.
Doubling?
If we want to get into specifics, normally to rent out our normal performance venue at McGill, it's around $16,000. To move to somewhere like D.B. Clark or a similar performance venue somewhere in the city with a similar audience size and resources, we're talking around upwards of $30,000. And for a student-run and primarily student-funded group, that's a lot of money.
It sure is. So what do you do when you're put in that situation? How do you find the money?
We fundraise like it's our job.
It is our job, essentially. And normally because of our costs have been going up, we haven't in the past needed to acquire a lot of corporate and private sponsorship. And this year we've really sought out that type of sponsorship, which has helped us make up a lot of the deficit in our budget.
How has that gone? How's the fundraising effort gone? Because, I mean, normally you folks get a chance to really focus on the production more. This year it's different.
Yes. Well, we have we've recycled a lot of ideas that we've used in the past. We had a really successful fundraiser at Brutopia last week, and it was a lot of fun. We raised a lot of money.
Did you ever consider just shutting it down, canceling the production?
Yeah, there was actually a time about 3-4 weeks ago before we really stepped up our game with corporate and private sponsorship, which is our bread and butter essentially this year. Normally in the past we've done, bake sales, fundraisers, like Fee said, our fundraiser at Brutopia. But private sponsorship is the way to go. But before we got that, there was a time that we had to consider, especially the technical director of our show and I, thinking about, because it is a student-run group, a lot of the funding that we do, we pay for things out of our own pocket, and then when we make our revenue later on, that's when we refund the receipts, we pay the people back. And if we were risking running a large deficit, there was the risk that members of our group would be taking the fall for that. And as students, as a producer, I can't do that to members of the group.
Sure. Who's to blame for all this?
You know, there's a lot of talk about blame and trying to shift blame in this and people who are pro-MUNACA and against the strike. But really, AUTS is a nonpartisan group. We don't support and we don't condemn the strike.
You must have had nights when you're kind of cursing your luck and shaking your fist.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. You know, Fee and I, it's been hard, and just wishing that both sides of the strike could come to a speedy resolution of what's going on.
Do people around campus talk about these sorts of problems for different clubs as well? Do you hear it happening with other people on campus?
Yeah, absolutely. Other theater groups on campus have suffered. They haven't been able to perform in Moise. The Savoy Society, who it's an opera musical theater group at McGill, they also have to move off campus because they can't perform in Moise.
So without blaming either side, do you have a message for the two sides?
Wow, a message. I guess I would just say that at McGill, speaking as someone who supports the theater community at McGill, McGill doesn't have a fine arts program aside from the music school that has to do with theater, not like other schools in Montreal. And for these kids that are involved, these students that are involved in Sweeney Todd and other theater productions, this is their passion. This is what they love to do. And to have to suffer the consequences of the strike and not have the resources that we normally have, and the space and the opportunities to rehearse because shortened building hours and all of that, it's hard on them. And it would be nice to see a little bit more support for the arts.
Sometimes when you face this kind of adversity, it really actually brings you closer together and can make it for even a more powerful production, a better production, or it can just exhaust you. What do you think is going to happen?
I definitely think that we're working a lot harder this year. Our goal is to, throughout all the difficulties, put on the best show possible. And I think the struggle has made us work even more harder to make that happen. Okay,
so we're talking about your production of Sweeney Todd, which will happen as planned in January. Is that right? At the TB Hall building at Concordia University. Mm-hmm. You'll have a link for us that we can put up on our website.
Yes.
People can buy tickets eventually, but they can also help you out with some money.
Yes, on www.autsmcgill.com. We have a link to donate directly via the website, which helps out. Every little bit helps out. And we will be selling tickets online on our website. There'll be more information about that later.
And we'll put that link up on our website in case people didn't have time to write it down. Sometimes people are in the shower or something like that. So it'll be on our website, cbc.ca/Daybreak Montreal, as usual, under links we mention. Andrea Poyle, producer for the McGill Arts Undergraduate Theatre Society's production of Sweeney Todd. Phaedra Novak, the play's director. Thank you both. Break a leg. Hope it goes well.
Thank you.
The play runs in January at Concordia. Originally, it was meant to go at Moyes Hall.